Good morning, students. Last time we have explained about various method of bed changing or cleaning together with the spacing and the molting activities which are occurring during the larval development. So, last time we have explained about various methods of bed cleaning or changing, that is conventional method, husk method, net method, combined husk and net methods, and these are the methods which are used for the transferring larvae from the old bed to new bed for the purpose of cleaning activities. Then during the development of larvae, each larva should get the optimum space or a proper area for its normal growth or development. So last time we have explained about spacing also. During while spacing or so as to avoid the overcrowding, we double or triple the number of trays or the feeding areas during each instar so that larvae can grow well and can yield good quality and the quantity of the cocoons. Then last time we have also explained the process of molting. So during the period of larval development, that is about 30 days or a month, the silkworm larvae passes through 5 instars and undergoes 4 moltings. So last time we have explained the process of molting, that is a period of definite optimum or maximum development during the each instar, and there are such 4 moltings taking place during the larval development, and the larva or the respective instar get transferred from first stage to next stage of the larval development, and this is called as a molting. Molting means a definite period of growth or the development reaches to maximum and then follows the process of ecdysis, that is removal of old exoskeleton and formation of new exoskeleton or the body wall. This is called as a molting. So there are 4 moltings taking place during the development of the silkworm larva uh, during its development or the larval lifespan, that is about 30 days. So after the complete development of the silkworm larva, and when is transformed into fifth instar stage, during which the larva attains the maximum size or the length up to 6 to 8 centimeter, and it shows number of changes in its structure, that is the development of the modified silk gland in the body together with large quantity of saliva or the substance of the silk which has been stored into the reservoir of the silk gland. Then body shows the wrinkles, that is representing the segmentation of the body uh, on the surface of the skin. Then it also become the sluggish or inactive, and during this time it stops feeding. The larvae stop feeding and crawls to the periphery of the feeding area or the floor bed or the rearing trays so as to start the spinning cocoon around its body to undergo the next phase of life cycle, that is pupation. So at the end of larval development, larva get transferred into a fifth instar stage or the old larvae, and at that time the larvae should be transferred to the mountages or the chandrikas for the spinning of the cocoon so as to undergo the next phase of its life cycle. But the sericulturist will start transfer them so as to obtain the cocoons as a crop of the sericultural practice. So today we'll explain the process of mounting. Mounting means the transfer of mature or fifth inch star larvae to the mountages or the chandrikas is called as mounting. So during final instar or fifth instar, the silkworm stops feeding and get ready to build or to spin the cocoon around its body before to undergo the next phase of life cycle, that is pupation, and the pupation taking place inside the cocoon, which is spinned by the larva itself around its body. So usually on fifth or seventh days, 5 to 7 days before pupation, 5 to 7 days before pupation, fifth instar larva stops feeding and thus their stomach contents become empty. The fully mature larvae becomes translucent or transparent and yellowish in appearance. Their body shrinks and shows wrinkles on the surface of body, and this is the indication to the sericulturist for transferring them onto the mountages, and such mature larvae or fifth instar larvae which has been sluggish, inactive, stops their feeding, and uh, due to lack of feeding, the entire gut or the alimentary canal become emptied. So stomach contents are released outside or removed. The mature larva then becomes translucent or yellowish in color, and its body surface shows number of wrinkles representing segmentation of the body, and thus body shows shrinking or shrinkage together with the formation of wrinkles on the surface of the skin, and this is the indication or a right time to think to transfer them onto the mountages for the spinning activities. And such mature larvae then crawls towards the periphery of the rearing trays in search of suitable support for spinning the cocoon. And this is the right time to pick up them and to transfer them or to put them onto the mountages so as to allow them to spin the cocoon around their body. So while mounting, the correct density or number of larvae should be maintained in the mountages to avoid the overcrowding, and this leads to, because overcrowding or crowding in the mountage will lead to the spoiling of the cocoons due to staining of the cocoons by urine or excreta of the silkworms and the formation of double cocoons. So whenever the larvae are uh, present in a closed situation in the mountage, so this will interfere with the spinning activity of one another, and there is a formation of double cocoons, and these double cocoons cannot be separated from one another. So mounting density or the number in the mountage should be 50 worms per zero point 0.1 square meter area, and this density, that is number of 50 larvae or 50 worms, silkworms per zero point 0.1 meter square area gives more uniform and good quality cocoons. So this is the process of mounting. So mounting is thus simply the transfer of mature or fifth instar larva from the feeding trays or the floor bed onto the mountage so as to allow them to spin the cocoon around its body, or cocoon is the product of the sericulture, but as a part of its life cycle the larva get transferred into a next phase of its life cycle, that is a pupa. So as to continue its life cycle, which is the natural part of the life cycle of the silkworms of the Bombyx mori or the silk moths. That is, after its complete development or after its complete larval development, the larva spins the cocoon around its body and larva ultimately gets inside. Larva will remain inside and it will spin the cocoon around its body, and thus after that it undergoes a, a dormant phase of life cycle, that is pupation. So during which number of physiological, morphological changes taking place in the larva, and the vermiform larva, which is having the length of about 6 to 8 centimeter, get transformed into a pupa with a pupa or chrysalis with a three distinct body divisions which are formed, showing the sclerotization or the hardening of the body wall, and distinctly showing three body regions, that is head, thorax and abdomen in a pupa. So this dormant phase of life cycle is completed inside of the cocoon called as a pupa, and thus at about the maturation of the larvae at the fifth instar stage, the larvae spins their cocoon themselves around their body, and that's why these fifth instar larvae or the mature larvae should be transferred to the mountages or chandrikas for spinning activity or to spin the cocoon, and this is called as a mounting. So there are several changes taking place in a larva, silkworm larva at fifth instar, and the silkworm larva stops the feeding and crawls towards the periphery of the rearing tray in search of a suitable site for the spinning cocoon, and this is the right time. So 5 to 7 days before pupation, 5 to 7 days before pupation, the silkworm larva or fifth instar larva stops its feeding, and thus its stomach become empty. Then mature larva become translucent or transparent and yellowish in appearance. Then body shows shrinking or formation of wrinkles onto the surface of the skin, and this is the indication to transfer them onto the mountages, and such mature larvae crawls towards the periphery of the rearing trays in search of suitable support or a site for spinning the cocoons, and this is the right time to pick up them and to transfer them onto the mountages. So while mounting, the sericulturist or the farmer has to maintain the correct density or a number of larvae in the mountage or chandriks to avoid the crowding. So crowding will lead to a spoiling of the cocoons due to the staining or coloring of the cocoons due to release of urine or excreta of the silkworms, and this also prevents the formation of double cocoons. If the larvae are occurring together or close together without much of the distance between two larvae in the chandrika or mountage will lead to formation of double cocoons, and thus the proper density or the number of the uh, silkworm larvae should be maintained in the mountage so as to allow uh, the larvae to spin the cocoon in a proper manner, or normal cocoons or individual cocoons should be formed, and that's why we'll have to mount the larvae distantly with a about 6 square inch area, about 6 square inch area to each of the larva or the silkworm, so that the larvae can spin cocoon without any disturbance or without any harm, and producing the cocoons around its body. So mounting density should be 50 worms or 50 silkworms per zero point 0.1 square meter area of the mountage or chandriks, and this will gives the more uniform and good quality cocoons. So again, there are various methods of mounting or transferring the fifth instar larvae from the feed bed or rearing trays to the mountage or chandriks. To save the labor and time in picking up the ripe or mature silkworms, there are three methods of mounting can be used, and these are pre-mounting, the branch mounting, and the net method. So with the help of three methods, we can transfer the mature silkworms or fifth instars onto the mountage for the spinning cocoon. And due to the use of these methods, will save the labor and time in picking the individual larvae and transferring them to the mountage will require more time or will require more labor, and that's why there are three methods and one of which can be adopted for the transferring fifth instar larvae onto the mountage for spinning cocoons. So first method is pre-mounting method. So in pre-mounting method, instead of collecting the mature worms one by using the chopsticks from the bed, the mountage or chandrikas are directly placed in the feed beds and the silkworms crawl themselves onto the mountage and acquire or get their position or their location or the site for the spinning activities. So instead of collecting individual mature worms by using the chopsticks from the feeding areas or the feed bed or rearing trays and transferring them onto the chandrikas or mountages, we can directly keep the mountage in the feed bed and the larvae themselves crawl up and taking their position in the mountage so as to perform or spin the cocoon. So in this method, the complete equipment, that is mountage or chandrik, directly kept in the feeding bed or the rearing tray, and the larvae themselves crawl upon the mountage and start their spinning activities. Then second is the branch mounting method. In this method, the freshly harvested mulberry branches freshly harvested mulberry branches with the green leaves are kept over the rearing bed or the rearing tray, and when the larvae crawl on the branches, when the larvae, silkworm larvae, crawl up to the mulberry branches, which are then simply picked up and shaken off on a net and then are transferred onto the mountage. So this is a branch mounting method. So in this case, the freshly harvested mulberry branches with green leaves are kept in the rearing bed. So larvae will climb up the mulberry branches and the entire branch then picked up and shaken off onto the net, and then the larvae are transferred with the use of net onto the mountage. So this is a branch mounting method. Simply the harvested mulberry branches are kept in the feed bed or rearing trays. Larvae will crawl up the branches and the entire branch then can be shaken off onto the net, or even one can transfer or shake the branch, mulberry branch with a uh, fifth instar larvae can be shaken directly onto the mountage also. Instead of using net, one can simply shake the mulberry branches containing these larvae, fifth instar larvae can directly be shaken off onto the mountage or onto the net, and the net with larvae then can be transferred onto the mountages. So this is the branch mounting method. And third is the net method. So in this method, a net is spread over the feed bed or a rearing tray. The larvae which are non-feeding or at the fifth instar stage or have completed its larval development and became a fifth instar larva, mature larva and ready to spin the cocoon will only climb up the net, and net then picked up or collected, and again the larvae are transferred to the mat, from where these are again transferred to the mount edges. So in this case, a net with a size of about 20 square mm, 20 mm square, 20 mm square, 20 millimeter square mesh size net can be spread over the feeding bed or trays. The mature larvae which had stopped their feeding and which are in search of a suitable place for spinning activity, that will climb up the net, and net is then transferred or shaken up onto the mat, or after which this can be transferred to the mount edge for spinning activity. So each larva should get 6 square inch area for the normal spinning. So for the spinning activity, the larva requires a proper space or the area so as to avoid the interference of the spinning activity by other or neighboring silkworms, and that's why there should be a safe distance between the two larvae, and that is about 6 square inch area should be provided to the each larva so as to spin the cocoon without any disturbance. So there will be a normal spinning by the fifth instar larva whenever we um, keep a equal distance between the larvae onto the mount edges, and that can complete the spinning activity without any disturbance. So while spinning cocoon, the fifth instar larva in the mount edge, what happens actually, the posterior end of the body of the larva get fixed to a mechanical support or to the mount edge, and after that the head end of the larva is rotated, and together with a uh, anterior to posterior and posterior to anterior movement of the body, and together with the rotation or the gyration. So this is the non-stop activity of spinning cocoon, and that is continued for about 3 days, and the larva rotates its head. The larva, mature larva, silkworm larva rotates its head at the speed or at the rate of 72 per minute. 72 per minute. So 72 turns of the silk thread are formed in a minute, and the larva rotates its head from anterior to posterior end and around its body. So the movement of the body of the larva and head of the silkworm larva shows the rotation, that is gyration, and also simultaneously it moves posteriorward, again reaches to anteriorward, so anterior to posterior. So the body bent and on the sides, anterior to posterior, posterior to anterior, together with a gyration, and thus spins the cocoon around its body within a period of 3 days. So, and during which what happens, there is a continuous release of the substance of the silk or the salivary secretion through the spinneret of the mouth part. So while spinning, there is a continuous and a uniform source or the release of the substance of the silk or the saliva from the reservoir of the modified salivary glands, that is the silk glands of the fifth instar larva, and that will provide a continuous uh, source or the supply of the substance of the silk through the spinneret, and that will form the silk thread around the body of silkworm larva with a length of about 500 meter, or in certain strains the silk thread may obtain from the cocoon is about 1000 meter, or even 15,000 meter, 1500 meter length silk thread can also be obtained in certain varieties of the silk moth Bombyx mori. So there is a continuous silk thread secreted by the silkworm larva or a fifth instar larva while spinning cocoon around its body, and after which the larva remains ultimately inside of the cocoon and then undergoes the uh, pupation, that is the dormant phase of its life cycle. So this is the image showing a mountage. This is a type of mountage. In modern days, such type of mountage is prepared. So this is the industrial product made up of plastic and having wavy structure together with a mesh, and this will provide a suitable place or a site for spinning the cocoon to the fifth instar larvae, and this will not interfere with one another also. So we can see uh, in a figure or in the image there are several fifth instar larvae, and there are some larvae which has continued or have been started spinning the cocoon, uh, that is the larva which appears inside and the cocoon has spun onto the side. So this is the type of spinning mountage where the silkworm larva of fifth instar stage shows spinning activity or partially spin cocoon. Partially spin cocoon is present in the center of the this mountage or a chandrik. So this is the spinning activity. One can easily see the larva present inside, and the process of spinning is going on inside of the cocoon. So this is the partially spin cocoon and the larva present inside onto the spinning mountage. Then this is the another mountage which is prepared by using a bamboo mat and a belt of bamboo mat that can be fitted spirally so as to provide a safety place or the partition between the larvae spinning cocoon. And we can see there are several number of cocoons which has uh, present in the mountage, and this mountage is showing the cocoons which have the larvae have completed the spinning activity, and the cocoons are formed completely and are now ready to harvest. So this is the mountage showing the cocoons which has spinned by the silkworm larvae, that is 15 star larva, and there are large number of cocoons present in the mountage, and that could be then harvested or collected manually one by one. Usually the harvesting of the cocoon is done manually. Simply the cocoons are collected by hands or manually. Then we'll explain the ideal conditions for good spinning. So, similar to the maintenance of temperature and humidity in the rearing house during the larval development, we'll have to provide or we'll have to maintain the optimum temperature and the humidity even during the spinning the cocoons also. Oh, so while spinning cocoons or the while spinning activities will have to maintain the optimum temperature and humidity in the rearing house, which is also having great importance in the spinning activity. So for ideal or a good spinning, the temperature of the room where the mountages are kept should not exceed 26 degrees centigrade. So there should be a 26 degrees centigrade temperature should be maintained in the rearing house during spinning cocoons, and the relative humidity should be in the range of 60 to 70%. So temperature of 26 degrees centigrade and humidity of 60 to 70% is essential or optimum during which the spinning activity is good or ideal, means during which what happens, the substance of the silk which has been secreted or released through the spinneret will have uniform source uniform source. So the silk thread formed will have uniform thickness throughout the length. Throughout the length of silk thread, we'll get a silk thread with a uniform thickness throughout its length, and this is because of presence of optimum temperature and humidity in the rearing house while spinning activities. So for the good spinning or a good quality of the silk or the cocoons, ideal conditions are temperature of 26 degrees centigrade and the humidity of 60 to 70%, because the high temperature leads to fast spinning due to increased temperature than 26 degrees centigrade. So when temperature exceeds or increasing than the 26 degrees centigrade, then the spinning become fast. So result of spinning fast, that is release of more amount of saliva through the spinneret, and this will form a thick silk thread. The thickness of the silk thread get increased due to the fast spinning, because there is the rate or speed of the release of the substance of silk through the spinneret become more due to the increased temperature, and this is because the rate of rotation is same. The rate of rotation of the head while spinning will remain same, but only the substance of the silk released through the spinneret will get increased, and this will result into the thick silk thread. And the lower temperature, that will cause delayed spinning. The lower temperature causes delayed or slow spinning, that is slow release of the substance of silk, and this will lead to the formation of thin silk thread, or there may be fragments. The silk thread can cut or break, so there will be fragments of the silk thread can produced while spinning activity. So the lower temperature result into delayed spinning, and the small quantity of substance of the silk is thus released through the spinneret, and this will lead to formation of thin silk thread or fibers, and thus poor quality cocoons are produced. Means when there is an increase of temperature, there is a fast spinning, and the silk thread obtained will have more thickness, or thick silk threads are formed due to the fast spinning or due to increased temperature. And due to the low temperature, there is a delayed spinning. So small quantity of the silk substance or substance of the silk released through the spinneret, and this will result into thin silk threads, or even sometimes there is a formation of fragments or the segments of the silk thread, and such type of cocoons will result into or will create the difficulties in the reeling activity, means we will not get a continuous silk thread, so that will become difficult to reel the silk thread on the wheels mechanically, or it is becoming difficult to reel or to obtain the continuous silk thread from such poor quality cocoons which have a thin silk threads or a fragments, and thus poor quality cocoons are produced and which will become difficult and for the reeling. Then next point is harvesting of the cocoons. Harvesting of the cocoons. So when the cocoons are completely formed, like the mountage in this figure or image, we can see the now cocoons are completely formed in the mountage and are now ready to harvest. So while harvesting or collecting the cocoons, when the cocoons are completely formed, they are simply removed from the mountage and surrounding floss is also removed. So whatever the undesired uh, floss or the silk threads which are present around, that are also removed. Only the uniform cocoons are harvested. So the floss present around, that is also removed. So while harvesting, the cocoons are completely when the cocoons are completely formed, they are removed or collected from the mountage and surrounding floss is also removed, and this is called as harvesting. So the cocoons are harvested only when spinning is complete, and the larva inside should have metamorphosed or transformed into a pupae, and usually this happens on the fifth day of spinning in case of multivoltine strains, and seventh or eighth day of spinning in case of univoltine or bivoltine strains. So usually the cocoons are harvested after 5 days, because the fifth instar larvae or mature larvae, which we will transfer from the feed bed to the mountage. So onto the mountage, the fifth instar larvae, which are sluggish, have stopped their feeding, or their bowel or alimentary canal is empty, become translucent or transparent in appearance, yellowish in appearance, which have been transferred to the mountage for allowing them to spin the cocoons in the mountage. So after its transfer in the mountage, they start spinning cocoon. So the time or the period for the spinning cocoon, complete spinning, is 3 days for about 72 hours or 3 days, and this is the non-stop activity. The spinning of the cocoon is a non-stop activity and remains continue for about 72 hours or 3 days. So this is day-night activities. The larvae continuously spinning cocoon around its body with the movement of the head from anterior to posterior or posterior to anterior together with a rotation or gyration, and this will lead to the formation of cocoon around its body, and this will require usually 3 days. So within a period of 3 days the spinning activity will be completed, and then larva undergoes the metamorphosis, that is vermiform larva body is constricted, body shows contraction or constriction, and resulting into the formation of a pupa with a body wall which has sclerotized or chitinous and showing three body divisions, that is head, thorax and the abdomen. So this is the formation of the pupa. So within first 3 days of the spinning, the engaged larva is engaged in the spinning activity, and after that it undergoes its body transformation. So the larva then get transformed into a pupa. In case of multivoltine strains, within a period of 5 days, pupa has been developed inside of the cocoon. So first 3 days required for the spinning, and after that the larva is transformed into a pupa. So on fifth day of spinning, in case of multivoltine strains, the pupa has developed inside. So this is the right time to harvest the cocoon, collect the cocoon from the mountages of the silkworm larvae or the silkworm varieties which has been grown as a multi-volatile strains. So in case of multi-volatile regions or multi-volatile strains of the silkworm larvae, we can harvest the cocoon after 5 days. So on or after fifth day, we can collect the cocoon. And in case of univolatile and bivolatile strains, the pupa is developed or the pupa is formed inside of the cocoon on 7th or 8th day of spinning. On 7th or 8th day of spinning, the pupa has developed in case of univolatile or bivolatile strains of the silkworm, and thus after or on 7th or 8th day we can collect or we can harvest the cocoons from the mountages. So harvesting must be done in a particular time or a specific time. So just after formation of the pupa, one has to collect the cocoons. If we are if we are harvesting the cocoons later or delayed harvesting will result into the development of the parasitic insect like Uji flies which have infected or which have laid their eggs onto the fifth instar larvae during the larval development. So that will emerge out and will damage the cocoons. So that can emerge out, that will cut the cocoons of the silkworm larvae and emerge out from the cocoons, and thus will lead to the damage of the cocoons. So harvesting must not be delayed. Harvesting of the cocoons must not be delayed because parasitic insects like Uji flies infecting the silkworms during its larval development or at the stage of 15 star. So the larvae of the Uji flies can emerge out, come out of the cocoons and damage the cocoons. So cocoons are normally harvested by hands, manually or by hand. One can collect the cocoon, harvest the cocoon from the mountages. So this is about the harvesting of the cocoons. So harvesting of the cocoon should be done on or just after fifth day of spinning in case of multi-volatile strains and 7th or 8th day of spinning in case of univolatile and multi-volatile strains. And harvesting is done manually and there should not be delayed harvesting because of chances of release of Uji fly larvae which has also possibility or chances of presence of the eggs, fertilized eggs onto the body of silkworm larvae. So this can hatch, the larvae of the Uji flies can hatch during the pupation, and that's why there should not be a delayed harvesting. So harvesting should be done in a proper time or immediately after completion of the spinning, the cocoon should be harvested because there is another reason also. So once the pupa is formed inside of the cocoon should be harvested immediately and sorted or sold into the market because after pupation, if we are uh, collecting the cocoons late or delayed harvesting, this will result into the development of the adult moth also from the pupa, and that can also emerge out by piercing or cutting the cocoons on one side. So the chrysalis, which is having the head end, to that side, the head of the moth will be developed, and ultimately, with the help of mouth parts, that will cut open the cocoons on that side or on that end, and the adult moth can emerge out. So, such type of pierced cocoon will also be rejected because that is also difficult to obtain the continuous silk thread in case of the pierced cocoon or the cut cocoon. So as to avoid the chances of damage of the cocoons by the Uji fly larvae, or so as to avoid the emergence or the release of the adult moth from the cocoons, the sericulturist or farmer has to harvest the cocoon, collect the cocoon in a specific time or just after completion of spinning activity to prevent the damage of the cocoon, and such cocoons are rejected. Such cocoons will not get much price because it is difficult to reel them mechanically. So they create difficulties in reeling, and that's why it is essential to harvest the cocoon in a proper time. So this is the mountage with cocoons that is also ready to harvest. Then cocoon harvesting. So cocoons simply can be collected by hands from the mountages. So this is the a mountage, a artificial type of mountage which has now used modern days. Such type of mountages of a plastic mesh can also be used for the spinning activities or for spinning cocoons. So cocoons can be harvested or collected by hands or the manually. Then next step of the uh, process of harvesting, that is sorting of the cocoons. So uh, with this today we'll stop here, and next time we'll explain the sorting of the cocoons or the marketing or post harvest processing of the cocoons. So these are the uh, next steps of the sericulture, that is industrial part of the sericulture. So today we'll stop here, and remaining we'll explain next time. Thank you.